Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Coronation Starscream. So this is Starscream as we saw him in Transformers the movie, just before he got turned into dust. Spoiler alert. So, as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging, and we'll bring it in. And if nothing else, this is leader class packaging, so that's a good thing. You've got Takara Tomy up there. You've got that nice artwork. Looks like you've got Thrust and maybe Ramjet back there. Transformers Movie Studio Series 8612. You've got that artwork on the side. Looks pretty good. On the back, you have your product shots, and it is big screen inspired. Scale, detail, backdrop, all hail Starscream. And Starscream holds a coronation, asserting his rise as king of the Decepticons until a newly reformatted Megatron called Galvatron disrupts the proceedings and ruins his big day. Ooh, gosh, I wonder what happens. And over here, you've got a few more product shots showing everything that comes with it. The backdrop is included. And down here, you have your warnings and information, and you do have the sad coronation baby. Over here, you get a close-up of that nice smirk where he's just having a great day for a little bit. And he is a leader class. Transformers the movie on top, and down low, manufacturing information. So that is it for the box. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that package. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that comes inside that package. And make no mistake, with this Starscream at this leader class price point, you really are just paying for the accessories. This is a Voyager class figure, but because of the accessories, they're pricing him at a leader class, and you do get a good amount of accessories, so yeah, I guess there's that. But let's go ahead and jump in, and we'll start as we always do with your little sheet of warnings. And then you also get your instruction booklet, always helpful. And then you're left with everything else. So we're going to start over here on the right-hand side. You do get 2 shoulder pads. Now these are identical other than just being mirrors of each other, so we'll just focus on one here. And you can see you do have that nice purple, and then you have those gold accents. Look pretty good. And it's the same thing on both sides. And up underneath, here's your peg to put into his shoulder, and then here's the port that you use for the coronation null rays. So yeah, these look pretty good. All right, and then we'll take a look at his cape. So this is hard plastic, and it is hinged, so you can spread it open like that if you choose to do so. You do have your peg right here, which is off center, so it's really kind of an artistic kind of thing on how you want to mount that cape on Starscream, how you want it to look. Totally up to you. You can, of course, have the cape folded if you want to do that, or you can have it completely opened up. All right. And then moving on over here to the left side, he does come with 2 sets of null rays. So the first set we'll take a look at, and these 2 are identical. So we'll just use one. These are the null rays that you would typically see on Starscream. So these would be the ones that would be up on his shoulders or on his forearms, typically speaking, and underneath his wings when he's in his alt mode. So no paint here, just a decent amount of sculpted in detail. Hollow underneath, but you're hardly ever going to see that because it's either going to be under his wing or it's going to be on his arm. All right. And next up, we'll take a look at the null rays that are meant to be used with the shoulder pads. So much like the other null rays, these are identical to each other, so we'll just focus on one. And you can see that there is a minor difference between these null rays and the other null rays. So let's bring those in for a point of comparison. So these are the normal null rays, and these are the coronation null rays. So you can see a little bit of difference there, particularly in the way they're mounted. All right, so 2 of those. And then, of course, we're making our way to the last few accessories here. You do get his crown, which looks pretty good. No major complaints there on that. And paintwork is decent. Fits his head nicely, stays on firmly so it doesn't fall off, which is good. All right, and then the last thing you get, other than the display stand, is the throne. So this is the big thing right here. This is what essentially, as far as I'm concerned, what you're paying for. So this is feels like a high quality plastic. It's got some heft to it, so it feels high quality. I'll give them that. Would have been nice if there was some paint on there, though. You do see you have that Decepticon symbol. You've got nice sculpted in detail up here, really all the way around. It looks good. I cannot figure out what this is for. So if anybody knows, let me know in the comments. As far as I can tell, there's nothing that any of the other accessories use this for. So just kind of an oddity to me. It may just be how the throne was in the movie and I just don't remember. So yeah, there you have that. Front looking pretty good. Here it is from the side. Decent sculpt work there. And then on the back, this is kind of nice. I will admit I enjoy this. They have the ports back here so you can store a lot of his other items. You know, if you want to put his normal null rays back there, you can do that. If you want to put his cape back there and mount that in, you can do that as well. So makes it nice for some storage of all your extra parts. And then down here, a little bit of a hollow area, but you're never going to see that. Good sculpt work back here. And even underneath, you get a few lines. So yeah, let's move that out of the way. And that leaves us with the last thing, which is the display base. So, you know, as I've said in other reviews, if you choose to use it, I really appreciate that they include them. I just simply don't have room. So this will be going back into the box and then going into storage. But for those of you who are curious, yes, the throne will fit nicely on this display base, and then you can put Starscream sitting in that throne if you choose to do so. So that's it for the accessories and everything that came inside that package. So let's go ahead and get into the details on Starscream himself. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting for, the Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Starscream. Wait, that's not right. Let's try that again. Here it is, the bot we've all been waiting for, the Transformers Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream. Yeah, that's better. All kidding aside, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is the War for Cybertron Earthrise Starscream with a slightly darker shade of gray plastic and articulated hands. That being said, let's go ahead and just do a real quick run through of his details and talk about this guy a little bit. So we'll bring him in, and you have that head sculpt right there, which is just like the Earthrise head sculpt. And coming on down to the chest, good sculpted detail all the way around there. Coming on down to those legs. Plenty going on here. Looks good, just like the Earthrise Starscream did. Coming over here to the side. Really not too bad as far as compacting up the wings. Plenty of effects ports. And then coming up here, he does have the little hollow area that we have seen from all the Seekers in the Earthrise or the War for Cybertron line. Up underneath, decent amount of detail. And then coming around to the back, there you have his cockpit, his wings, his nose cone, his really flat butt, and his legs. All right. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with details on this guy because most of you out there probably already have either Earthrise Starscream or one of the Seekers out there of this mold. So if you are curious, if you want to see transformation, if you want to see more details, you can take a look at my thrust review that I did, which is, other than the wing configuration, it's the same thing as this. So, all right, so articulation, his head's on a ball joint. You can go just about any direction you want. Shoulders come up that far. You can go all the way around. Just be mindful of the wings. Elbows, you get just over 90. Bicep rotation. Here's where he's different. Come down here to those hands, and you can open them and close them. So look at that. That's fantastic. All right, nothing at the waist, just the way he's designed. You do have that cod piece that'll move out of your way, though, for the legs if you need them to. And then as far as legs themselves go, at the hips, you can do the splits that far. With the cod piece forward, you can kick forward that far, and you can move backward about that much before you run into his flat butt. All right, as far as the... let's talk about thigh rotation. You do get thigh rotation on this guy, so you can go all the way around if you choose to do so. As far as knees, you can get right at 90, maybe just a tick over. And I disconnected my port there, so There you go. And then down here at the feet, you can go down with his feet. If I get those out of the way. The heels and toes pretty much as far as you want to go. And then you do have ankle tilt. So there you go. Details and articulation on this guy, other than the hands, are exactly the same as all the other War for Cybertron Earthrise Seekers, Starscream, and everybody else included there. So let's go ahead and get this guy accessorized up, and we'll take a look at him sitting on his throne and in a few other configurations. So here we see the would-be king sitting in his throne, at least temporarily. And for the most part, I like this. I think this works. It does capture a moment from the 1986 movie. And like I say, for the most part, it works for me. I do have a little bit of an issue with the fact that Starscream doesn't really fit in the throne, sitting in the throne very well. It almost feels like a little kid trying to sit at the grown-ups table. It's just, he almost seems uncomfortable there, and rightfully so. I mean, he's about to be turned into dust, so I guess there is that. But yeah, I think for the most part this works. He looks good with his shoulder pads, with his crown, with those alternate null rays, and of course having the storage back here for the regular null rays, and his cape. I think that works really well. So I think if this is something that you want to put on your shelf and have him sitting like this, certainly I'm sure you can do a better job of posing him on the throne than I can. But yeah, I think this works as far as shelf presence goes. Personally speaking, I'm probably going to have somebody else sitting in that throne. I bet you can't guess who. And then I'll have Starscream just kind of in his pose with his cape on, one of those things. But yeah, I think for the most part, this looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and get into another accessorized mode and take a look at him there. And here he is in his second accessorized version, just sans throne. He has that cape on now, and he's shooting his null rays, and I think we all know what's going on here. This is when the Constructicons wouldn't stop playing their trumpets, so he had to shoot the ends of the trumpets off. So yeah, I think for the most part this looks pretty good. The cape, when it's all flared out, I think it gives a nice dramatic effect, and I'm probably on my shelf going to have him configured in some fashion like this on my shelf without that throne. But yeah, I think this looks pretty good. It works. I will say that the cape, because it is a hard plastic, it does have a little bit of mass to it, so it does make him a little bit back heavy, top heavy. So just keep that in mind when you're posing. And you know, you do have pretty good degrees of freedom as far as those feet goes with the ankle tilt and the toe and the heel movement to compensate for that. But just something to keep in mind there. And then I've also noticed that his crown does have a tendency to hit his intakes, so you have to kind of choose how many degrees you want his head. So he's not quite looking where he's shooting right now, because I would have had to turn his head too far, and when he has these shoulder pads on, it does limit his butterfly motion, if you will. So the arms, they can pretty much come straight out from his hips and up, and then back down. So kind of this motion, you get that, but as far as like a butterfly motion to bring those arms forward, it's a little difficult to do with these, and I'm still working on trying to figure out the best configuration. But there you go with the second accessorized version of Starscream, and like I say, I think this is going to be my preferred version. So now that we've got all that out of the way, I'm not going to do transformation in this video. We're just going to jump right into his alt mode, and we'll take a look at him there. Okay, so here's the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream in his alt mode, and as you can see, as I stated earlier, this is just a remold of the War for Cybertron Earthrise Starscream, but it still looks good. And so we'll bring it in and we'll take a look at those details real quick. And we'll start up there with the cockpit, and you do have that translucent window right there, so you can see inside the cockpit a little bit. And you do have a few differences here. He does have these paint applications here that are a little different than the Earthrise Starscream, and then the lack of paint on his tail fins. But good panel lines in here. The Decepticon logos are a little bit bigger on this version than they are on the Earthrise Starscream. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, this is just a good looking mold. I mean, I can completely 100% understand why they reused it. And there it is from the side, fairly clean. And then underneath, it's folded up robot, but most Transformer planes are just folded up robot, so no major complaints there. You can see it does have that opening right there, but he does have the nice intakes. Everything, for the most part, cleans up, looks pretty good. And then there he is from the back. So yeah, there you go. What we'll do now, real quick, is before we get into the comparisons, I'll throw some blast effects on this guy so you can see just all the fun you can have with the effects on the Starscream in his alt mode. Here he is with some effects thrown on, and I didn't even use all the available effects ports. You can actually see down here that there are a few effects ports on the sides that with the null rays on, you just simply can't reach them or put any effects on there without interfering with the null rays. But everything else here, I mean, you can see you can have all kinds of fun. I know they're not technically supposed to be in this configuration in the alt mode, but if you flip his feet up, you can use those thrusters right there. And then I don't know if you wanted to have him shooting himself in the back, because everybody knows that if a bot gets shot in the back, it's Starscream. But you could do something like that. And then right under here, under the tail fins here, he's got a few spots where you can throw some effects on there as well. So yeah, you can have all kinds of fun with this guy in his alt mode. This is, like I said, just a great mold. So there you go. As far as the effects go in the alt mode, let's go ahead and get into the alt mode comparisons and see how this guy looks compared to some other figures. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into those alt mode comparisons, and we will start with what is the most relevant comparison. So on the left is the new Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream, and on the right is the War for Cybertron Earthrise Starscream. So as you can see, the exact same mold. The only difference is in the articulated hands and in a few different colors. So the plastic, the gray, is a little bit darker on the Earthrise Starscream, and there's a difference between the Decepticon symbols on the wings, and then you have these paint applications on the back, the tail fins of the Earthrise Starscream. But other than that, these things are exactly the same, so there you go. For our next alt mode comparison, here you see the Studio Series Coronation Starscream next to the Combiner Wars Leader Class Starscream, and there's a reason I brought this guy in, because when we see him in bot mode, he did come with a coronation crown, so he'll be a nice comparison in bot mode. Next up is the Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Starscream, as we saw him in his Cybertronian Tetrajet mode. For our next comparison, here we see the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream next to the Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Galvatron. And as far as I'm concerned, these guys live in the same universe. There's no doubt about it. So this is the Galvatron that turns him into a pile of dust. And for our final individual alt mode comparison, here we have Coronation Starscream on the left, and on the right we have my original G1 Starscream, or what's left of him. And yeah, he's not in the best of shape, but he was very well loved and he got played with a lot. So there you can see the modern take and the almost 40-year-old take over here on the right. And for our final alt mode comparison, I thought it would be fun to just throw together a small War for Cybertron Studio Series Air Force together just on the screen here, just so we could see a quick comparison. So of course you have the Coronation Starscream in the back, which is just the War for Cybertron Earthrise mold, and then you have Dirge, Ramjet, and Thrust together with him in this picture, and I think this looks pretty cool. Starscream sitting there with the cone heads, ready to take out some Decepticons. Who doesn't like that? Alright, that'll do it for the alt mode comparisons, so let's go ahead and get into those bot comparisons. Alright everybody, so just like what we did for the alt mode, our first bot mode comparison here is going to be the most relevant. So these are the mold mates. On the left you have the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream, and on the right you have the Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Starscream. And as you can see, as far as the molding goes, nothing is different between these two except for the hands. So the Earthrise Starscream just has those fixed closed fists, whereas the Studio Series Starscream has those hands that are articulated. So other than a few coloration differences here, as far as the mold goes, there's absolutely no difference between the two of these. Obviously the Earthrise Starscream doesn't come with any coronation stuff, but the basics of the bots are the exact same. So there you go. For our next comparison, we'll stay in the War for Cybertron universe and take a look at the Coronation Starscream next to the War for Cybertron Siege Tetrajet mode Starscream, so you can see how those two look together. For our next comparison, here we see the Studio Series Coronation Starscream next to the Masterpiece MP52 Starscream, so you can see how those two look together. So the next couple of comparisons will also be various versions of Coronation Starscreams. So here we have on the left the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream, and on the right this is the Transformers Red Starscream with all of his Coronation accessories on. So for those who don't know, the Transformers Red, these are the non-transformable, essentially they're just action figures, and this Starscream came with the Coronation attire, much like the Studio Series over here did as well. So that's kind of cool to see these two guys all caped up with their crowns and not knowing what fate awaits them in just a few moments. Next comparison is the Combiner Wars Leader Class Starscream, and although he didn't come with a cape, he does come with a crown. So there you go, you can see those two next to each other. Oh boy, here we go. I think we just found out who interrupted Starscream's coronation. Here we see the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream next to the War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Galvatron, and I think Starscream's about ready to be in a world of hurt. So before Starscream gets turned into a pile of dust, let's go ahead and get in that last solo comparison, and we'll take a look. The Studio Series 86 Starscream is on the left. On the right is my original G1 Starscream that's going to be 40 years old here sooner than I like to think about. But there you go. Alright, so while Starscream still functions, just for fun, we'll get in a bit of a Starscream with the Coneheads family photo here, since they're all essentially the same mold, just different variations of it. And yeah, I mean, this is a cool looking group together. It's fun to think that for the briefest of moments, Starscream really thought it was going to happen. I mean, he really thought he was going to be the boss. What a shame. Well, that's the end of the line for the bot mode comparisons, and also for the end of Starscream's reign as Decepticon ruler. So let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. Alright gang, so let's go ahead and talk about the Studio Series 86 Coronation Starscream. You want to talk about a mixed bag as far as a figure goes. This is definitely a mixed bag. You are getting nothing new here except for the accessories if you already have the Earthrise Starscream. So that's just something to keep in mind. Really up to you if you think the accessories are worth it. I'm still kind of on the fence as far as that goes. But let's go ahead and quantify this guy, and we'll start with the aesthetics. And yeah, I mean, as far as the figure itself goes, this guy looked good in his Earthrise release. He looks good now. It's as far as I'm concerned, a fairly accurate representation of Starscream. And yeah, I mean, he looks great in his jet mode as well. Just don't look underneath. I mean, that is typically the case for most Transformers that turn into jets anyway. Just don't look underneath them. But yeah, I think that from an aesthetic standpoint, I think this guy has it. He looks good. And of course, with these accessories that come with him now, he definitely pulls off the coronation look. So you can definitely see him in that role. My biggest complaint as far as the overall look goes is he just doesn't look comfortable sitting in that throne. He kind of, like I said earlier, looks like a little kid at the grown-ups table. Just doesn't feel right. Something about it. But overall, aesthetics were really good on this figure and on the accessories. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a 9 out of 10 as far as the accessories go. Now, moving on to the articulation, I'm not going to ding him real hard here because I think as far as the overall engineering of the figure goes, articulation is about as good as you can expect it to be, and rarely, if ever, do we see waist rotation in a Starscream or a Seeker mold. So that's really my biggest complaint here, is I really would have liked to have had waist rotation of some kind in this figure. Love the fact that they gave him articulated hands. What are you going to do with them? It's really up to you. He can open them, he can close them, that's great. So for the most part, I think articulation is on point. You can get him in whatever poses you want to get him in. So articulation, I'm giving him an 8 out of 10. Now, moving on to the accessories. As I said, this is what you're paying for. It's a Hasbro thing now where they're packaging deluxe Voyager class figures with a crap ton of accessories, and they're calling it a leader class or a commander class, and they're getting more money out of all of us, right? So that's exactly what this is. This is a Voyager class figure with just a ton of accessories that kind of turns him into a moment in time from the movie. So yeah, as far as accessories go, spot on. You know, I mean, he has a couple of sets of null rays. He has that cape. He has the crown. He has the throne. He has the ability on the back of the throne to store all that stuff. So I think for the most part, accessories are what you're paying for here, and they are what you get. I guess it would have been nice, as I have happened to harp on quite a bit, is blast effects. It would have been nice if they would have included some blast effects in there as well. So for accessories, I'm giving him a 9 out of 10. Now, moving on to quality, I don't have any major issues with this figure or with the accessories. I mean, there are minor imperfections here and there, but everything works the way it should. Everything was included. No major molding or paint defects to speak of. So I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 on quality. And then moving on to value, this is where I'm going to hit him hard. Just like I've said numerous times, you're paying for the accessories. And, you know, I can get on board most times with Hasbro and their cash grabs. But this one kind of hurts, and it's kind of insulting, really. Wow, congratulations, you made articulated hands on a figure that I already had, and so I paid for a cape, a crown, extra null rays, and a throne. So I guess I'm not real sold on all of this. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not it's worth it. I will say that if you do not have the Earthrise Starscream, then this is a good value. Definitely pick him up. But I picked this guy up. I found him in the wild at a Target for $49.99. So, as I said, if you do not have the Starscream Earthrise mold and you find this guy for $50 US, pick him up. I mean, I think he's worth it for those accessories. But for those of us who already had the Starscream mold, you know, it would have been nice if Hasbro would have offered these other items a la carte. I would have gone to Hasbro Pulse or gone online and maybe grabbed that throne for sure, if that was $15 or $20, whatever they wanted to charge around that. So that would have been nice to have had, but to pay $50 just to get another Starscream and a few accessories, it kind of hurts. So I'm giving this guy a 6 out of 10 on overall value. I just think if you already have Earthrise Starscream, I just don't know if this guy's worth it. So all that being said, that brings us to a grand total out of a possible 50 points. It puts the Coronation Starscream at 41 out of 50, or 82%. So in short, if you already have the Earthrise Starscream, think twice, think long and hard about whether or not you want to pay $50 for a chair and a cape and a crown. Otherwise, if you don't have this Starscream, then I think this is an easy pickup for you. So that's going to bring the review to an end. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw here. Hopefully you were entertained by it and got some information that'll help you make a good purchasing decision. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and feel free to leave some comments. I may be way off base. I may have an opinion nobody else does, and I'm sure that happens. So with all that being said, it's going to wrap up the review. Until we see you guys in the next one, take care.